In the Nabiobai Desert, people are attacked by high-level lizard man monsters during a quest. 3 monsters jump at once and attack Deli and Cross. In an instant, all the monsters' weapons fly off in different directions with a sound, falling on the sand. Deli swings and cuts monsters. The lizards are dying. Cross asks Deli if he can continue. He just nods in response. The lizard is endlessly advancing in droves with huge and powerful weapons. They are straining, but Tiana and Aiga are standing behind them, who tell them not to worry because they have the most reliable support team behind them. Even if they get seriously injured, they will heal them in the blink of an eye. Aiga sighs, looking at the sky, and says that it's so annoying because if only one explosion from Mory, and they would be finished. Tiana tells Amy that there are only 4 of them here right now, so she should focus on the monsters. Cross hears all this and starts shouting that that's it. He is sure that Mory will definitely return to them soon. He's preparing to attack and yelling that's why they shouldn't stop here. They attack the lizards as a team. A few days later, in the metropolis of Zahabult, Deli was surrounded again by a crowd of girls, asking him to look in their direction. Someone asks that he must be tired after a recent rank quest. Another says that it must have been a stunning success. If so, then that's cool. Deli is sick of such a crush. It is unpleasant for him. He is not strong in this. He runs away from the girls because his face is so hot that he cannot say anything. Aiga asks Deli if he shouldn't at least shake their hands. Deli is glad to see her. She continues to say that Deli is very popular among women, so he should be more careful in his actions. She explains that as long as they continue to support him, the king of adventurers will pay attention to them, and with them, the guild will start paying more attention to them. Then their chances of getting high-level assignments will increase. Deli says with a frustrated expression that this is true. Aiga tells him that he is too shy. Aiga goes ahead, saying that one way or another, after Mory's sudden disappearance in Ace, the guild will no longer allow their team to complete quests of the Demon King class. She says with a bitter smile and a tired laugh that they went through so much trouble to get here, and now they got nothing in return. He wanted to say something. They approach a door. Aiga apologizes and says that there is nothing interesting about it, and then freeze in anticipation of a nightmare. Suddenly, a bunch of people, reporters and journalists, rush in, photographing them non-stop and asking questions. They ask, because they are Aiga and Deli of the 5 Wonders, they ask them to tell them more about Mory's disappearance and why Cross and Tiana are trying to hide it. Deli thinks to himself that these people are 100 times worse than those fans who were with him just now. But he remembers Tiana's words that they should not provoke reporters. Let them just say nothing, then everything will be fine. Reporters continue to press and ask about the disappearance of Mory and the silence of Cross and Tiana. He thinks to himself that even if Mory's disappearance has caused the public to pay more attention to their party, it will only worsen the guild's impression of them. Suddenly, he looks around and realizes that Aiga is not with him. At this time, she has already entered the building and is walking down the beautiful corridor alone, thinking to herself that these reporters are so annoying. She is sure that Deli will be able to cope with them, and she herself is thinking about what to do. She notices that someone is sitting at the table. He is peeping and sees Tiana sighing wearily. Aiga thinks she is upset, so she decides to go make fun of her. Suddenly, she hears her name and questions where she is. This is Deli running and does not understand where she has gone. He is worried and thinks to himself, let her not make him worry. Suddenly, someone pulls his long hair. He stops. It's Aiga, which he immediately rejoices. She tells him not to make any noise. Deli sees what's going on. They peek and see Cross approaching Tiana. She turns to him and says it was a good job. Cross thanks her. Cross sits down next to her and asks how everything went at the guild. She shakes her head and replies that it's not very good, because they no longer allow them to take quests of the Demon King class. Cross says it's all as he thought, putting the magazine on the table. He tells her that they have been in 9th place for several months, no matter how many rank tasks they have completed. Deli is eavesdropping on them. The Demon King's quests are usually assigned only to the top 7 party adventurers, so the guild cannot break the rules and assign the Demon King's quest to the 9th place. To move to the next level, 5 Wonders needs to have the best adventurers. In particular, Mory attracts a lot of attention. At such a young age, Mory mastered 2 of the 6 magical attributes to the highest level. Mory's absence had already lowered their party's rating in the world. In fact, they said that their group's strength had decreased significantly because of Mory. With tears in his eyes, Mory shouted at Cross why he had sent Master Aiga away. Tiana asked him to calm down. Cross tried to explain that his ability was greater. Mory interrupts and shouts at him that it's too selfish. They want to say something to him again, but he doesn't give in and shouts that he doesn't care, and then runs off into the street, not responding to calls from behind. Silence falls. Cross says that as he thought, maybe letting him go was a mistake. Deli and Ama are just silent. They don't care. An excited Tiana says to stop already about it. Cross wants to say something, but Tiana tells him it's true that he can't keep up with the band anymore. She comforts and says it's not Cross's fault, and it's not Aiga's fault either. Cross straightens up and says that's right. Now the time when they could just have fun is over. Silence falls again. Deli tells Ama that it's time for them. She tells him to be quiet again, and what he didn't understand. Deli really doesn't understand what Ama wants to hear. Here Cross sharply asks Tiana about what he said recently. If she thought about it, she looks away and tries to remember what he said. Here Cross directly asks if she will go on a date with him. Tiana is silent for a long time, so Cross calls her name again. Tiana abruptly stands up and says that, in her opinion, they should give priority to the upcoming adventures for now, and that this is a very important time for them. Cross agrees with this. Tiana continues to make excuses, remembering Mory and many other things. Cross rubs his head and says that's right. Now is not the best time. In silence, Tiana says she's sorry. Cross tells her he's sorry too. After a pause, Cross abruptly gets up and leaves, wishing them a quiet night. Tiana responds in kind. Ama sighs, and Deli listens to her attentively. She says Cross is stupid because he doesn't understand that Aiga and Tiana are dating. Deli is surprised and asks if it's true, but how does she know about it? Ama says Tiana should let go of the past and start dating Cross because she thinks he's cool. She says that a woman will feel happier with her second lover. She has heard this phrase somewhere. Here, Deli confidently says that he does not think so. He tells her that everyone would be happier with the person they love the most. His cheeks are a little red. Ama then wonders why Tiana didn't just go with Aiga. Deli replies that Aiga just didn't take her with him. He adds that Aiga broke up with her in the first place. He knew that sooner or later he would not be able to stay in the group. He assumes he did it because he knew Tiana would want to leave with him. Ama says that's right, and then adds that Tiana is just as hopeless because she used the money as a cover. She probably hoped that Aiga would take her with him. Ama leaves and says that Aiga will never notice it unless she tells him so directly. Deli sighs. He thinks to himself that even though she says so, she loves Aiga very much. At this time, Aiga is going somewhere in Tokuma. Galshias asks him if he is going somewhere. Igarashi says that he is going on vacation. They are walking through the field. Aiga says that it is almost harvest season, so the alignment will be postponed for now. So why wouldn't he arrange a vacation at the end of summer? Igarashi adds that he always works without interruptions. Galshias asks him if he's going to look for Mory. Aiga turns her head to him and says that's right. Aiga gets into the boat and says that he leaves everything to them. He apologizes to Igarashi and Juzu for this. Galshias waves to him and asks him to return to the Autumn Harvest Festival and take souvenirs with him. He sails on a boat and remembers Aqua's words that Mory left the hero party. That's what they got for expelling Aiga. Aiga secretly smiles and laughs. He rejoices, saying that this can't be. Mory left because he was kicked out. It's funny to him. If so, then the reason he was on the team was to keep Mory. He asks himself why it's so sad. If it's true, he ponders with a happy smile what he should do. This happened a few years ago. Let's go back to the time when there were only 3 people in their team. These are Aiga, Cross, and Tiana. They met Mory in the land where the legendary adventurer's sword is said to rest. Mory asked him if they were adventurers. He said that when he grows up, he will definitely become the strongest man in the world, so he asked them to let him join their party. Then Aiga leaned over to him and said that becoming the strongest man was too much. He asked why such a beautiful lady wanted to become a man. Mory begins to blush and feel shy, not knowing what to say. The boys behind them shouted that timid Mory was sticking to adventurers, and that it was useless. How could he be an adventurer if he was always shaking? Finally, Mory says that she wants to become a man because girls are so weak, even if they grow up, and that they are still weaker than men. He says that he doesn't think so. For example, there is a girl named Greo, who has been very popular lately. Then, out of habit, he checked her profession. A wave of powerful magic appeared behind Mory. It's a miracle. Her profession is an attacking magician. This little girl has the ability to quickly learn all 5 magical attributes at the highest level. He could hardly believe his eyes back then. Then he told her that she could join them, and that she might actually become the strongest in the world. Mory is happy and asks if it's true, if they're asking her to join their group. Tiana then intervened, saying to wait, because she is still a child. Aiga then told Tiana to just think outside the box. Because her profession is very important for their group and her future, they can't refuse her like that. Tiana then asked if she was really that good. Aiga replied to her that this was the case, and that he would take full responsibility for the care and education of these girls, so they could not worry. Tiana looked at her and said, maybe she should still let her grow up a little, because she chose her profession for her whole life at such a young age. Aiga said that he understood this, but talent development should happen as quickly as possible. At this time, her body and mind are still trainable. If they treat her well, then no bad things will affect her. Tiana shouts back at him that maybe he's right, but the life of adventurers is extremely unpredictable. There are many talented people, but did they all succeed in the end? Mory panics in the middle of them and asks them to stop worrying. Then Cross came up to them and told them to stop worrying, putting his arm around their shoulders. Cross, in support of Aiga, said that, according to him, everything is fine. He asked Tiana then, because she always believed him. She replied resentfully that she did not deny it. Aiga then mentally thanked Cross. He sat down next to the girl and asked her what her name was. She happily replied that Mory. Then Aiga said that it was great, and now let his student Mory prepare for practice. Mory joyfully obeyed him with her sword. Aiga suggested that she start studying magic, and she asked if they would not train with a sword. Cross then said with a smile that Aiga was very strict in training, and Tiana was outraged. What was funny about that then? Currently in Mory Leggy's hometown, Aiga continues her search. He sighs and says that she is not here either, but he has heard that she has returned to her hometown. He had visited many of the places they had traveled together, but there was still no sign of Mory's presence. He wonders aloud where she went. There's a strong wind blowing that he cringes and says the wind is starting to get really cold. He raises his head, looks at the moon, and says it's time for him to return to Tokuma. Before returning to the port city of Marinrable, he bought several household chemicals and magazines to read on the ship. He picks up the magazine and is glad that it is the new issue of the Adventure King. He starts reading it first. He opens the page and recognizes Aqua's diary there. He reads that this is the new beginning of the age, that he has begun to create amazing things that no one expected. This is a new state. He uses the infinite potential of the earth and people with great efficiency and impressive strength. Aiga's face breaks into a smile. Well, it's not that he's too proud. He decides to read it again. Suddenly, he sees photos of Cross and Tiana on the page. He throws the magazine aside and calls it a curse. Whether they meet or not, it has nothing to do with adventures. Because Cross and Tiana are famous, the reporters decided to make a fuss. In his opinion, he gets off the ship at the dock at Tsukuzane. He walks with quick steps and thinks how he can stop being angry. Someone suddenly says that Aiga has come here to visit them again. He turns around and sees the hostess Okakura, with whom he had fun last time. She says it's been a long time since his last visit, so her girls really missed him. She sticks to him and asks why he looks so sad. He tries to get rid of her. The woman asks if he wants to stay the night. He refuses and says that he has already spent all the money to buy equipment. The woman asks him not to lie to him. He literally runs away from her, asking her to stop acting aggressively towards him. As a result, he holds in his hands a business card that says, "See you next time in paradise," at the top of Okakuru. He sighs already on his territory and says that he has finally reached home. He is greeted by Galshias and Igarashi, congratulating him on his return. He thanks the guys for taking care of this place while he was away. Galshias sadly says that it looks like he never found Mory. Aiga asks them if anything happened while he was away. Galshias says that Akira started digging a new well in the cave. According to him, the western cave is very dangerous for direct excavation, so he is looking for other ways of extraction. Akira turns out to have said that he wants to thank the Lord because he feels very happy right now. So he has to try. He is sure that they will definitely find the magic ore. Galshias tells Aiga about this, and he in turn smiles. He thinks Akira is trying so hard. He decides that next time he should bring him good gifts. He gets up from his seat and says that now he will take a little day off today. He thinks about what he should do first, eat or take a shower. Igarashi gets up and helps him take off his outer clothes. He turns to her, thanks her, and notices that she is looking at him strangely. She asks him if she can help him. Aiga does not understand what she is doing. Aiga says he will take a shower first. Galshias is sitting on the couch and laughing at the fact that Igarashi loves to tease the Lord very much. Igarashi was folding Aiga's clothes and suddenly found the same business card that the woman from Okakura had given her. Aiga enjoys his hot bath. He says that it is so refreshing and that his fatigue after a long trip passes. He thinks hard and hopes that Mory is in a warm place right now. He thinks if he could find her, he doesn't know how to deal with it. He starts shouting that she is a stupid girl. What is wrong with her? And that a professional adventurer should not be like that. Where did the dream of becoming #1 in the world go? He gets angry and slaps his hands on the water. He wonders if he should scold her severely so that she hates him. Then he says out loud that this is so true. Perhaps this is the best way out. He relaxes again and says he lost his temper again. He sees someone flying in the sky. He says, "Are there crows on the islands too?" This crow is rapidly flying straight towards him, which is blown by the wind. The water in the bathroom just flows away, and Greo Fantani appears right in front of him. She winks at him, greets him, and says that she flew to him. Aiga freezes because he realizes that he is now facing the strongest adventurer in the world, Greo Fantani. She says her mansion looks nice. Aiga laughs nervously and says that he did not expect her to find this place. Greo begins to look for something in his clothes, which confuses Aiga. He covers his eyes with his hand and says that undressing so casually is not the way to greet each other. She asks him to wait a minute and takes out a magazine, telling him to watch. Aiga awkwardly says that she is good at hiding things. She says that next to the heading Greco's room, there is an interesting story about him. She followed it to get here. She says that, fortunately for him, she noticed it. To be honest, she only cares about what they write about her. Aiga hides and says she is so honest. She says she understands him now. He sits down in the water with him and says that it is understandable why he decided to reject her offer, because of what he decided to create. Aiga looks at her awkwardly and then kicks her, moving her away from him, asking why she suddenly climbed into his bathroom. Greo hugs herself and asks him what is wrong with him. In her opinion, he just wants her to take off this armor. They start fighting, holding hands. Aiga says that he is completely naked, and she asks him to let him go, because at this time of the year it is too cold to fly there. Then here, Aiga says that you need to dress normally. As a result, they still took a bath together. Here Greo begins to say that she just now noticed that he also has a lot of muscles. He hides himself, asking her not to poke at him. Greo asks why he behaves like this. They are friends. They are connected by muscles. Aiga says, so they are friends. He thanks her for this, but does not understand what muscles have to do with it. Here Greo asks him to remember her, because rank 1, like her, has nothing to be friends with. Aiga freezes, and then abruptly stands up, saying that taking a bath for so long is tiring. Greo sadly says that if he is already done, then so is she. Aiga leaves and tells her to relax. Warm up properly so as not to catch a cold. He advises her as a friend. Greo is very happy and enjoys the warm water even more, thanks to his friend. Aiga opens the door and immediately sees Igarashi's angry face. She asks her what happened. She says he has a guest. Aiga wonders if he has another guest. Then Igarashi asks in what sense is another guest. She hears something from the bathroom, turns around, and with an angry look asks who it is. Aiga thinks that his male intuition tells him that something bad will happen if Igarashi sees Greo. At this time, Igarashi had already realized that this was a woman by the scent of shampoo in the bathroom. Aiga tries to distract her and says that there is no one, and that it's just a cat. He just slipped in here. He takes her by the shoulders and leads her away in the other direction, asking about the guest and offering to greet him faster. Igarashi blushes and agrees to it. On the way, he asks if it's really a villager or an aqua. She replies that none of them are, and that she has never met this man before. He enters the room, apologizes for waiting, and sees Mory, happy and flushed at the sight of Aiga. She immediately runs to him and hugs him. Aiga continues to stand in surprise. He thinks Greo was able to find this place from the information in the magazine, so Mory was able to do the same. He reflects and tells himself now to act as he planned to knock her on the head with his knuckles and scold her. He clenches his fist, raises his hand and strokes her head very gently. He bends down and says he's glad she's okay because he was worried. Mory's eyes fill with tears. She exhales in relief and apologizes to Aiga, calling him a master. Night is falling. Galshias calls Mory a cutie and says she is older than he thought. Aiga tells her that Galshias is a little creepy. Mory hid behind Aiga's back. Igarashi comes up to him and says that there is another guest there. Aiga is already scared, but sees Greo coming to them and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Aiga pretends and supports that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Igarashi sees Mory, and Mory sees her. They recognize each other. Greo says that this is the same boy, and Mory calls her by her first name. Aiga does not understand what is happening and asks if they really know each other. He wonders if Mory is already so famous. Greo hugs Mory and says that she missed him so much and calls him a baby. The others don't understand why it's a baby. She says she's sure Mory will really like it. She tells Mory to look at her muscles, while Aiga gives Igarashi some paper and tells him to send him somewhere. Igarashi asks, looking at Mory and Greo, if he is sure. Aiga looks worried and says he's sure. They are frying fish. Someone announces to the guys that the fish is ready. Mory and Greo happily start eating, and a proud Aiga stands in the background. It's been a couple of days since Mory and Greo came to Tokuma. Mory seems to like it here, and she won't run away anymore. And Greo is also a place to like, according to Aiga. Mory says that Greo has a piece of fish left on his cheek and removes this piece. Mory laughs and tells her that it seems like even the strongest person can be sloppy at times. Greo smiles back at her. She says teenagers are so brave in their day. Aiga looks at them and concludes that they look happy. Igarashi runs up to him and calls his name. She hands him the magic letter. This is a way to send short messages of less than 20 words on a piece of paper. It says on the paper that it will be soon. The harvest season has begun in Tokuma. Yellow and red shades are visible throughout the territory. They will hold a harvest festival tomorrow. Greo, who is standing on the edge of the cliff, asks Aiga why she called him here. She turns to him and says that he came on time. Aiga asks her if she really wants to practice. She says that this is a good offer. Aiga asks why she needs him. He immediately says that he will not participate in muscle training. Greo says it's probably time to get back to the adventure. Aiga wonders if Greo doubts this. He scratches his head and says that there is nothing wrong with returning to a normal life. Despite the strength she has, it is difficult to be the strongest if she spends all day relaxing. Greo says he's right. She turns her whole body to him and says that she has a request for him. She asks if she can take Mory with her. Aiga begins to think. He assumed that she would ask him about it. She explains that since she is the strongest in the world, she can help a beginner with finding high-level tasks. Even the level of the Demon King. She then adds that this is how she will become a bride in the future. Aiga is shocked. He never imagined that she would come up with such a thing. He tells her that if Mory wants to go with her too, then he has no reason to refuse her. Greo is happy and says it's good. Here he adds that it's not that simple. Greo is outraged as to why this is so. Aiga says it's all about compatibility. Greo asks for more details about this. Aiga explains that Greo is already an outstanding swordsman magician. To be more precise, she is skilled in both defensive magic and attacking swordsman skills. She can cope not only with ordinary opponents, but also with bosses. He concludes that, in other words, her skills already include Mory's spells. In fact, she is self-sufficient. Greo asks to wait and says that 2 heads are better than 1. Aiga says that in any case, she is much stronger than Mory. Even if she can follow her, she will not be able to develop her abilities to the fullest. He asks if he is right that Mory understood all this herself and rejected her. On this question, Greo sadly lowers his head. Aiga says that he is grateful to her for her love and care for Mory. And she may have misunderstood some things. Because in fact Mory, before he can finish the thought, Greo asks him to excuse her. He raises his head. Greo asks him to leave her alone. Aiga wanted to resist and object, but did not. The strongest in the world is Greo, the one who made her dreams come true. But it seems that her heart harbors deep sadness. He pulls some paper out of his pocket and says that he is no better. He presses the paper to his heart and decides it's time for the festival. The festival has begun. Mory and Greo have changed into different clothes and are happily walking through the streets full of all sorts of entertainment. Aiga thinks this is the first Mory festival in these parts. No wonder she is so happy. Aiga thinks that Greo has returned to her carefree state. He wonders how she coped with everything so quickly. He did not expect her to take off her favorite armor. A meeting of elders and village heads begins at the Yoshioka temple. The elders take turns talking and praising about the destruction of animals in the western part. Someone says that his children talked a lot about it. The rest immediately agree with him. One elder asks if he has defeated them all. Aiga awkwardly says that it was difficult to track down smaller individuals. He hesitates, not knowing how to explain to them. Galshia speaks here and shouts that they should not worry, because thanks to the efforts of the townspeople, the number of animals has significantly decreased. He loudly declares that their forces are growing and growing. Do they remember that huge monkey who swept away the entire army of Algae? The crowd actively supports and says that this is all true, and that Aiga even lent them his ship. Galshia whispers to Aiga that it's their turn now. Aiga listens. Here Aiga puts a magazine on the table and says that the world-famous magazine also noted this. Here it is, their Tokuma. Everyone is watching in shock. Aiga says that the time has come. With this, they will be able to negotiate difficult tasks with the guild. If everything goes smoothly, they will be known all over the world. The elders are happy and supportive. Aiga managed to successfully motivate them. They are now talking about global influence and worldwide fame. At the end of the meeting, Aiga goes outside and says that the meetings are so boring. He hears some sounds and goes towards them. He sees Mory. She shows other children her abilities. She says that now she will show them the magic balls. The children are happy and look at her. She is very easy to control with balloons and surprises children. They clap for her and say how cool it is. Aiga remembers the past and says what a nostalgia it is. That was the first thing he taught her. At first, Mory's entire body was covered in fire, but harmless to her. Mory had always wanted to watch Aiga's incarnations. After the ball, Mory told him that it was awesome and asked him to teach more. She studied magic every day with such zeal. He was glad to watch her grow. In those days, he spent nights studying, but he didn't teach her how to use elemental magic. When Mory was 13 or 14 years old, he no longer said that she would become a man, as when they first met. He couldn't teach her anything anymore. Mory came to him and asked if they could practice. Aiga looked at her sadly, but he could never resist this mesmerizing sincerity, so he immediately agreed. He would get up and leave his class and suggest that she learn to control magic like a pro, which Mory was very happy about. Already at the festival, Mory notices Aiga and runs to hug him. He asks what happened. She says her friends gave it to her, but she doesn't know how to make her fly. She asks if he will help her. She hands him a bamboo helicopter. He picks up the toy and says they'll see what he can do. He puts it between his hands, rubs the toy, and releases it into the sky. He says the main thing is not to miss the moment when they need to let him go. The children joyfully watch as the bamboo helicopter flies into the sky and reach for it. Aiga looks at them with a smile. He says that the right time is very important. Letting go in time, a person can give him the opportunity to reach incredible heights. Numerous helicopters fly into the sky. Aiga and Mory go down the stairs. He says it's getting dark, so he suggests we hurry up. He asks her if she liked the festival. He says that Greo enjoys training to the fullest. He probably regrets those people who will have to go through muscle training with her. There is silence. Aiga thinks about it and finally tells her that he needs to say something. Mory suspects and immediately says that she won't be coming home. Aiga wanted to start persuading, but she started screaming that she would stay here forever because she had a lot to learn and that the master should teach her magic. Suddenly, Aiga starts laughing, and Mory looks at him in fright. Aiga tells her that she knows herself that he has nothing to teach her. Mory says that's not the case. He tells her that she was always worried about him because of his expulsion from the guild, but everyone wants him to stay here. Mory starts to deny everything. She wants to say something again, but Aiga tells her not to worry, because her kindness is more than enough. He's smiling. Aiga asks her. She always wanted to become the strongest. If this is true, he is sure that she will need companions. There is nothing better than loyal friends behind her. Mory starts crying and asks if this means he will come back to them. He flatly replies that he no longer belongs to that place, which is why he was kicked out. Aiga smiles broadly and says that he is not discouraged. Mory doesn't want to accept it. Aiga says that, as before, he is working hard. Mory is already crying. Aiga tells her not to blame herself. She starts screaming that she said it wasn't like that. Aiga stops abruptly. He sees that she is shaking all over. Tears are flowing non-stop. It's the first time he's seen such a reaction from her. He sits down closer and asks her, "Then what is the matter?" She stutters and tries to say something, that it's because she loves him. Aiga doesn't understand what she's talking about. Mory abruptly turns away all red and says that's enough. They walk by the hand to the mansion. Mory is worried that everyone will be angry because she left them in silence. Aiga thinks that's why she doesn't want to. Of course, every child is afraid of being scolded. He tells her, pointing his finger at one point, that if they sincerely apologize, then everything will be fine. He asks you to look in a certain direction. Tiana is standing at the mansion with a suitcase. Mory immediately shouts her name with great joy, but then stops and hides behind Aiga. She's doubtful. Aiga pushes her. She stands awkwardly. Tiana runs up to her and hugs her tightly. She is crying all over and apologizes to Mory for not telling her about Aiga. At this point, Mory begins to sob, asking for her forgiveness. Aiga looks at Tiana, a bitter smile on his face. He asks Igarashi if the water is warm, and she says yes. She says it's late, so let him ask Tiana to stay with them for the night. Aiga is drinking tea in the living room. Igarashi comes in and says that they have already taken a shower. He thanks her. They hear some sounds. Aiga smiles and says maybe they should too and pours tea and Igarashi. Aiga is curious. Igarashi also likes to talk and drink, just like Akira. Greo abruptly enters, announcing that she has returned. Startled, Igarashi drops the cup. Aiga wearily wishes her well. He looks at her and asks why she is sweating all over. She replies that it's a common thing to train hard at festivals. She tells him she is hungry and asks if he has anything to eat. Aiga says she will ask Galshias to cook something, so let her go to the shower. Igarashi asks him if he is sure. He does not understand and asks what is wrong. She says there are others in the bathroom right now. Suddenly they hear screams. Then Grieco comes out of the shower and asks how it is, why the teenager suddenly turned into a girl. Aiga and Igarashi hide their eyes, and in the bathroom, Tiana looks at Grieco in disbelief, and Mory is shy. That's how the misunderstanding from last night was resolved. Morning comes. Aiga wakes up and wishes everyone a good morning. He goes out into the living room and sees Tiana calmly sitting by the window and admiring the view. Tiana notices him and wishes him good morning. Aiga awkwardly sits down on the sofa in front of her. There is silence. Only sighs are heard. Suddenly, Aiga gets up from her seat and says that he will go make tea and that they don't have much sugar left. Then Tiana asks him to wait. They sit down to drink tea. Tiana says that she apologizes very much for this. Aiga remembers last night and tells her not to worry. Tiana suddenly says that she has already read it. This story of his travels, which was published in the adventure magazine. Aiga is surprised. She says that's right, because adventure is his passion. Aiga apologizes and says that he is really different from the typical retired veteran. Tiana says that it is, and that it is quite natural. Aiga looks away and awkwardly asks if Cross has read the article about him. Then he abruptly says that's not what he meant, not understanding why he cares so much about Cross's opinion of his achievements. Then he says out loud that in the sense that she and Cross are not easy either. He starts to say quickly that he read the news about them. These reporters, it wasn't about adventures in any way, but they still. Here Tiana interrupts him by saying that she only reads what helps her work. She puts on her glasses very seriously. Aiga sighs and says that he understood her. Suddenly, the space is filled with Grieco and Mory. Tiana gets up to them and swears. Again these two. How long will they sleep like this? Tiana, with a warm smile, offers Mory to put her hair in order. Aiga stares at them. They all stand at the dock after a while. Grieco hugs Mory and says he knows she's a girl, but she's so cute. Yamasaki asks Tiana for her autograph, to which she happily agrees. Aiga thinks that the shabby pier where he lived has become so crowded now. Galshias comes up to him and asks if he is sad. Aiga just smiles. Mory happily waves to him and says that they will see each other. Tiana says they're leaving now. The whole crowd says goodbye to them. Suddenly, Aiga remembers something, runs to the pier and shouts Tiana's name. The girl is surprised and blushes. She turns to him and responds with a smile, calling his name. Aiga asks her to tell Cross that he will find his own way to the holy land of Zahalbelt, so let them wait for him. Tiana turns around and sadly says that in the end, the one he cares about the most is always Cross. They return to the mansion. Galshias says that now that Grieco is gone, their house is so quiet that he is already sad. Aiga asks him not to say that, because if there is too much work at the manor, he will have to hire a maid, although he can always ask Igarashi to take care of household chores. Then Galshias tells him about the hiring. He remembered something. He reports that the Aji ship is almost finished. Aiga is happy with this news. Galshias says that by next week 3 vessels will be ready, which will accommodate 50 people. Aiga asks if this is true. He immediately thinks about sea adventures. Galshias happily picks up his thought. Aiga says that then it is necessary to solve the problem with the adventurer's certificate. Galshias says about the costs. Their expedition will cost them a pretty penny. Then someone comes up to them all dirty and sweaty, which scares them. Galshias already falls on his back. Aiga asks Akira not to joke like that. Akira starts to say something haltingly, which he does not finish, picks up a huge oar from the floor and shouts that it is ready, and that they could. They shout that it's a magic oar. He could, and that it's great. Now they can export magic ore. In the cave, he uses Teru's lighting magic. A bright halo appears above everyone's head. Galshias says it looks like rings made of spiritual particles. Aiga smiles and says that it is forbidden to use fire in the mines. It is a simple spell to illuminate the area. They are getting closer to the light. They are guided by Akira. They walk carefully, holding on to the walls of the cave. Their shadow increases with each step. Aiga examines the area and comes to the conclusion that it looks like a small dungeon. Then Igarashi suddenly grabs him. He asks her what happened. She doesn't say anything and looks at him shyly. He asks if she wants to go to the toilet. She is surprised at first, and then answers that no, that's not it. Aiga asks if it's true, if she can bear it. Under such circumstances, it is quite difficult for a girl to go to the toilet. In any case, it is inevitable. He thinks about the problems with going to the toilet. On the way, this should also be taken care of, in his opinion. He reflects that a man just needs the nearest bush. Women are not so simple. Sometimes there is such a thing called enuresis among adventurers. However, if she is a shy girl with an excessive sense of self-esteem, she often just holds herself back. Sometimes this can cause incidents that are embarrassing for everyone to talk about. In order to avoid a repeat of this, they agreed that everyone should be honest and brave so that such incidents would not occur on the way. He reflects that Igarashi doesn't look like she was holding back. Aiga guesses and asks her if she is afraid. She sharply replies that no, she is not afraid at all. Aiga thinks he's right after all. He then thinks about Galshias, before he has time to ask how Galshias was saddled by small monsters that consist of fire. He asks the Lord for help. These are the monsters of the Uran elemental. Aiga says that because of Shuhei's skills, he thought that all the spirits were already under control. But there was one more. Aiga shouts to Igarashi and Akira that he is going to kill him now, so don't let them go far away. Then Igarashi jumps on him sharply and clings to him with his whole body. Aiga does not understand Igarashi, who mutters to herself that she does not believe in ghosts, and that they are just a myth. The spirits begin to approach Aiga. Ghosts are special, they become stronger from human fears. Nothing happened to Akira, not because of his spiritual powers, but rather because he is completely focused on work, and he does not care about what is happening around him. And this one wants to get even more strength from Igarashi's fear. Aiga tells her not to be afraid, because now he will do everything. Igarashi asks him to deal with him quickly. Galshias asks how to attack a disembodied creature. He explains that if he uses fire magic in the cave, it is equivalent to death. He decides to try to do something. It causes activation, after which all spirits disappear. Galshias says in surprise that this spell is very similar to the spell of that priest. Aiga smiles and says that this is a simple spell, Holy Blessing. He is lucky that he remembered it. Galshias says that his skills in medium-level spells in exploring such caves are simply irreplaceable. Igarashi is still hanging on Aiga. He tells Galshias not to say that because it's useless against high-level enemies. Aiga suggests moving on. Everyone listens to him. Galshias says that Shuhaya told him that when the Aiga first explored this mine, they were also afraid of spirits, and now he is so capable. After thinking about it, Aiga says that if you think of them as monsters, then it's not so scary. Galshias is left thinking that his lord is indeed an adventurer. He is glad that he has convinced himself so. They continue on their way. They finally reach their destination. Akira says that there is a magic ore in front of them. Huge crystals sparkle brightly in the light of their halos. They freeze in shock and silence, carefully examining them. Aiga says that he hopes for Akira, and he in turn takes his tools and obeys him. Akira activates the cultivator's ability and gets down to business. He digs, and then pulls out a huge magic ore. Aiga is surprised and asks when he learned this. He awkwardly replies that he does not remember himself. Not so long ago, 75 people in the Seeker team were actively raising their levels, and part of the experience gained from them was passed on to Akira, who received his mark. If they go on a journey and gain a lot of experience, he wonders how much Akira's likes will be able to develop. They return to the mansion, taking the huge ore with them. Galshias will not leave the treasure behind in any way and examines it in every possible way, kisses it, rejoices at it. He says that no matter how much you look at him, he doesn't get worse. He seems to radiate some kind of aura. If they sell him, they will get a lot of money. Aiga reminds Galshias of her words. He does not understand and asks again. Aiga replies that he has no intention of selling magic ore. Galshias is surprised and asks why. Aiga says that if they continue to sell raw materials like this, these lands will soon be depleted. Galshias listens to him. Aiga adds that at that time, the village of Yamamura became extinct due to the depletion of deposits, so their resources are not endless. Aiga strokes the stone and says that they will use this ore as efficiently as possible. If they create goods from this and sell them, they will gain significantly more. Galshias agrees and says that this is true, because in trade people try to get what they cannot create for a good price. If they just sell ore, they will have to put them up for a low price. Aiga adds to his words that, eventually, they will exhaust all the reserves of the local lands. Galshias thinks about it and says that it is so difficult to manage all this. Igarashi comes to them and tells Aiga that a letter has arrived for him. He picks up the letter and wonders who it's from. The sender is the head of the Adventurers Guild. Aiga immediately says that it is from the guild. Galshias is emotionally waiting for the content too. They both shout that it has finally happened and are happy dancing together. Igarashi asks what happened. They approach her and tell her that from now on they are officially recognized by the guild. They were sent a C-rank adventurer certificate from the association. From now on, they will be adventurers of rank C. The certificate says that the name of the group is Tokuma, and the leader is Aiga Janes. In another way, the name is also Aigi Manor, which means an ordinary local unit in the feudal system. The Seekers look and rejoice at this certificate. Someone says that it is so beautiful. Yamasaki, Kayoko, Eriko, Nad, Hyoji, and Chiyo are sitting at the table. 6 people who left the previous team gathered here. This is the first important gathering of the adventurers of the Manor Age. For some reason, Aiga is a little ashamed because of the name of their band. The girl asks him what the C rank means. He explains that this is the recruit rank. B is advanced, A is high, E's is the highest. Before assigning the E's rank, an invitation is received to the main office of adventurers in Zahalbelt, and then the corresponding quest is obtained. This remains his ultimate goal, but they are not up to it yet. He clears his throat and asks his people if anyone knows what benefits they will have from a rank certificate. Yamasaki raises his hand to indicate that he wants to answer. Aiga gives him permission. Yamasaki replies that they will look cool. Aiga says that this is absolutely wrong. He raises his hand to now and begins to answer that if they complete tasks from the guild, they will be allowed to stay in places where ranked missions are performed. Aiga says it's great, and that she's completely right. Others also tell her that it's a great job. She's happy. Aiga says that these territories are very important to them. They can be forests, dungeons, towers, ancient ruins, or habitats of valuable animals. These places are usually far from civilization because they are in secluded places, which is why Tokuma mobilizes an army of 150 people in these areas, and they are one of them. He says that everyone will lead a squad of 25 people. The 6 of them freeze in shock at first, and then rejoice. The meeting ends. Galcius says that everyone was so surprised after hearing what he heard. Aiga says that only Yamasaki was in the 7th heaven of happiness. Aiga tells him that their group is different from the original one. There are a lot more people here. Galcius says that he is right. That is why interacting with each other can be difficult. He hopes that they will succeed. Aiga smiles and says that it will definitely work, because these are his students. 1 week later, ships are delivered to them. They are happy and surprised that they are so big. A huge wooden vessel, Abukuma, sails to them. Lord Aiga comes up to them and tells Aiga that he seems agitated. He wishes the young master success and a safe journey. Aiga shakes his hand and says that he is extremely grateful to him. He will use these 3 ships carefully. That lord tells him not to worry, because they were created conscientiously. Aiga thinks to himself that he is always so circumspect, besides being friendly and full of enthusiasm. Lord Aiga says that apparently, Lord Aiga is not very experienced in the maritime craft, so he can just leave everything to his subordinates. He introduces a certain Yoshitaru. The guy bows and greets Aiga. He says he is grateful for the help he has provided. Aiga recalls the incident with the boss. Lord Aiga says that he would like to send with him the leader of the samurai Yoshitaru gang and 3 more assistants to provide support, and he will also provide him with a group of experienced sailors. Aiga awkwardly asks if everything is in order, because to mobilize both the leader of the samurai and the sailors personally for Aiga, the lord says that it all goes without saying. Aiga is eager to fight himself, and the residents are extremely interested in the results of his expedition. The lord also says that, of course, it is not appropriate for a samurai to constantly provide all the work to Mr. Ige. He hopes that he will be able to hone their skills and develop their skills. He is very counting on him. Now everything is clear to Aiga. As expected, Mr. Aiga has ambitions similar to that metropolitan official. He decides that, despite all that has been said and not said, they should trust him. He says he wants to use his ships and crew. People say goodbye to them, wishing that they return unharmed and asking them to be careful. They unload everything, lower the sail. Yoshitaru tells Aiga that all 150 people are on board and that everything is ready. Aiga shouts that it's great and gives everyone the order that they sail. Their small fleet had sailed, and they were gradually approaching Kamelt. These are lands with a huge number of trees and forests. They abound with various ancient towers and dungeons for investigations. In addition, there are various towns and cities where you can replenish supplies, an ideal place for adventurers, in his opinion. Aiga remembers that the last time he was here with someone, they were very poor then, so now there is no problem with that. He reflects that it is necessary to properly allocate finances for this trip. Suddenly someone knocks. He gets up and lets me in. Yoshitaru comes in and says that they will reach the port of Fuelt within half an hour. Aiga smiles and thanks him. Bandu gets up and leaves to start preparations, but is stopped by Aiga. He tells him to take 3 people with him when the ship docks. He wants to celebrate a little. Bandu bows to him and says that it is an honor for him to receive such an offer from him. He is very grateful to him. As soon as everything is ready, he will notify him immediately. Aiga smiles awkwardly because Bandu is always like that. They sail to the trading city of Port Fuelt. People walk around the city and look at interesting places. Igarashi says it's cool here, and Galshia says that the architecture here is extremely rich in the smallest details. At this time, Aiga shouts at everyone to get even. He shouts that he will give them 10 minutes to build. Yamasaki does not obey and whispers to a friend that they are like schoolchildren on a picnic. Aiga tells everyone that from now until the evening they are all free. He asks them not to get into trouble and not to spend their money completely. The crowd is dispersing. He turns to Galshias and Igarashi, saying that they should stop by the shops, and that Bandu and the others will be coming soon. Galshias asks what about him. Aiga says that he will go to the guild to settle the formalities. Galshias says he understood him. They say goodbye. Aiga tells them to be careful, while a monster peeks out of the bushes and smiles suspiciously at them. The local branch of the Guild of the Port of Isekai'd says that his license has been accepted and clarifies whether he is the Lord of Aiga. He confirms and hopes for their help. He puts the certificate back in his pocket and talks out loud about the information about the monsters in the area. He sees beginner and advanced level monsters on the board. If his guys cooperate correctly, they will cope without problems. The chance of loot loss is only 10%, and the chance of a boss appearing. A hand reaches out to him from behind. He notices something is wrong and turns sharply, but does not notice anything. He leaves and says that he will contact Galshias and think about it there. An unknown person hid from him at a huge vase with plants. At the Port of Fueled Food Court, 3 people bow to him and thank Aiga for the invitation. Galshias says he hopes they get along. He also turns around and says that it looks like someone is running late. Bando apologizes. One told them he was late. He's worried because the Lord really invited them personally. Aiga suggests that everyone start eating. The table is set. They begin to enjoy their meal. Aiga says he was here when he was little, so they shouldn't be afraid. They praise the drinks and food here, while Bandu's friends praise the food. For example, Yamamoto likes absolutely any drink, and Takana prefers not to drink at all. Aiga uses her eye and sees that one of them is a carpenter and the other a blacksmith. Aiga is a little disappointed because they are not warriors, but they are good in other aspects. Aiga pays attention to Igarashi and asks if she doesn't want to eat, or if she's afraid that the food is poisoned. He wants to tell her not to worry about the food, but Igarashi just can't bite off the sausage because of the large size. Aiga holds out a plate and offers her a taste of the potatoes. She hands him a sausage. He thinks, does she really want him to taste the sausage? He gets up and says he's had enough, and then reminds me that it's all at his expense. Then he starts looking for his things and abruptly says that his wallet, even his license, are gone. Everyone stands up in horror. They start asking if he lost them or if they were stolen. They don't know what to do. Aiga notices something and says out loud, because it's time to pay. Suddenly, a piece of brick wall peels off, and a girl comes out of it. She asks, so he understood everything. People freeze in shock. They recognize the girl and call her Miss Shinji. She hands him his wallet and certificate, and says that he has a good eye. Aiga says he was a professional adventurer. Bandu tells her that this is too disrespectful to the Lord. Aiga uses her ability and sees that she is a ninja by profession. She says that Mr. Aiga can become her master, and that this little prank is just a demonstration of abilities between the henchman and the master. Bandu gets angry and wants to object, but Aiga stops him and says that he is not angry, and that she just introduces herself like that. Shinji asks her, so he realized that she is not his enemy, because his license was stolen. Aiga says he didn't feel bloodlust. He asks if she's been following them since they boarded the ship, which is why he's so confident in her. Bando freezes in shock at this information. The girl bows to him and says that she is respectable because he sees through her. She asks him to be free to dispose of her as he sees fit. Aiga thanks her with a smile. Galshias is delighted to say that her clothes are like real ninjas. She confirms this. He says that he has been a fan of ninjas since childhood. It is worth noting that her technique was only funny. It's worth being more careful. Bando is scolding this girl. The next morning, they go to the quest area in the Lono Forest. The whole forest smells of death, which is why all the trees grow so densely. Even at noon, the sun cannot break through their crowns, as if a giant demon has opened its mouth, inviting them. His team is worried. Aiga sighs and says how scary it is. When he and Cross were here for the first time, it was very scary. Maybe he was shaking even more than the people behind him. He turns to them with a smile. Now his squad of 150 people. Here they are, the ones he trained so hard. He He gives the command to go ahead on the road. To raise their level, they and a selected squad of 150 people arrived at an alien dungeon, also known as the Lono Forest, in which the strongest monsters appear than ever before. He tells everyone the plan, that to begin with they will divide 150 people into 6 teams of 25 people each. He orders the guys to split up into teams. The peculiarity of their party is that they have an advantage in attacking due to quantity. However, there is not always enough space for battles. Whether it is a forest, a tower, a cave, or similar places, crowding, fighting with someone this advantage, on the contrary, will become the main disadvantage. They split up into teams. Aiga says it's great. The distribution of 25 people in teams looks like this: 10 attackers, 2 healers, 4 archers, 2 assistants, 7 warriors. On the first day, they and these 25 people will enter the forest one by one and have several fights. They ask him in what sense it is on one team. They thought it would be something like 6 teams fighting at the same time. Aiga says that it will be tomorrow. And today he wants to look at their fight to see if they can actually land in a real fight as a team or not. He orders the first team to come forward. He orders the rest to wait their turn. Aiga reflects that, in truth, this is not all. There is a good reason why they should fight one group at a time. When the fights end today, they will find out about it. They go into the depths. Aiga asks now to shine a little light. She obeys and calls for a weak tellurium. Now everyone can see, as glowing halos appeared above their heads. Aiga says that if it gets too bright, the enemy can detect them. If possible, he wants to start the search from here first. Aiga tells now to apply the following search. She obeys and calls on her power to hide the darkness and reflect the light. Threads of light pass through the trees, which becomes light. She can see the footprints. She says that she saw them, they were orcs. There were 4 of them, and they were here. Someone from the team gets scared and starts screaming out of fear. Aiga tells him to be quiet and not scream, otherwise they will easily detect them. He offers to strike them first. The uniqueness of team lies in the fact that they have an ace up their sleeve, the support magic used by the Now in the form of using search. Having discovered the location of the enemy before him, they can turn the tide of battle in their favor. Then an old man comes out and says that since this is the case, he just needs his eagle attacking power. Aiga blocks him and tells him to stand and not use magic yet, because first they will use a bow to weaken the enemy. Aiga gives the command to everyone to shoot. Everyone shoots arrows at the orcs. Someone gets an arrow right in the eye. 4 archers from the team are also beginners, so their skills are not good enough. With the magic of Now support, the frequency of hits increases, so it really inspires confidence. Next, Aiga gives the order to attack attacking magicians. They release fire from their palms, which hits the monsters and burns them. Aiga shouts at the swordsman to finish them off. Everyone listens to him and does what he says. The orcs are dying one by one. People are happy and says that they finally crushed them. Another says that they coped. They were able to break them. They hug each other and Aiga praises that they have all surpassed themselves. It's hard to believe that yesterday they were carrying a hoe and a fishing net. 10 pieces of silver arrows fell from the monsters. He tells the others to look. He says how lucky they are with the dropped items. Monsters can absorb objects created by humans, and after defeating such monsters, they drop out of them. That's why boss monsters tend to drop higher quality items. After that, Tiana took part in battles several more times. Some of them used up all their magic power, so they decided to return. As a result, they got arrows, a gold bracelet, and titanium fittings from the items. Aiga reflects that these drop things are really good. It looks like something that will bring him profit. He gives the order to the second team to move towards the forest. The attacking swordsman Eriko easily copes with monsters. The others sit and clap for her. Aiga thinks that, as expected, Eriko's combat capability is at its best after Chiyo. She is shy and asks him to stop staring like that. Team A and Team B are made up the same way. No one is able to use the search that the Now can use. Therefore, at the moment of the enemy's attack, a squad of attacking swordsmen will constantly fight with them, while attacking mages with archers and support mages with healers will cover the rear. This is the meaning of the orthodox fighting style. As a result, this is the most unchangeable way of fighting. This time, the objects that fell out were a copper lamp and 50 pieces of nails. Aiga thinks it's time for the team to move to a new level. He looks at how everyone is happy and comes to the conclusion that Erika exudes the atmosphere of a mother, which can increase the strength of the team. It can also be useful for raising the team's spirit, despite the fact that there are no fatal wounds. With the help of Kayoko's skills, They were able to defeat him. Constant training will help the group become stronger. Aiga tells Kyoko to move out with the group. He wonders how many more battles are left. She obeys and lands on him. Aiga abruptly closes her eyes because Kyoko's skirt opens when she falls. He asks her if she's not wearing anything. She does not understand and asks what she is not wearing. He screams that he is talking about panties. Is she not wearing them? She does not understand what she is talking about at all. Aiga says it's very bad, since she only wears clothes to hide her places. She only wears a skirt. Apparently, this is the culture of the elders. She does not wear anything under her outerwear. There is a sniper Hyoji in Group D. This is a group of shooters. Hyoji is an experienced hunter. He was able to rally his wards. His fighting style is similar to Kyoko's. With such a leader, their army will become more flexible. Aiga thinks about it and realizes that all 4 groups have finished all the preparations. There are only 2 groups left. The next group will be Yamasaki. His team is outraged. Since when did she become a leader? Yamasaki tells him that it has been since birth. They object and say that they cannot accept him as the leader of the group. Yamasaki says that the master has already made a decision, so he just needs to accept it. There is no one outstanding in Group E, which is why he became the leader. On the other hand, he gathered physically prepared people. He wonders if this will play into their hands. Yamasaki announces to everyone and asks them to listen, because their leader has come up with a plan. He tries to explain to everyone, but they are unhappy with his plan because they think they would have come up with something better. They're angry because he just wants to stand out. Yamasaki says that there is nothing wrong with this, because the leader is allowed to do everything. What's wrong with that? He replies that this is exactly why they do not want him to be a leader. Aiga stands wearily and watches as suddenly a man runs behind and announces that the enemy is already attacking. Everyone immediately breaks away from the argument and angrily kills the monsters. Yamasaki tells everyone to forget because they don't need any plan. He suggests they just get it over with. Aiga stands quite still and thinks that they are strong after all. The last group, but not the most important, is led by Chiyo. The composition of the group is almost the same as the others, but especially for Chiyo. He gathered residents from the village of Kimura, as they are experts in transportation. When 150 people from 6 groups join forces and fight together, one of the groups will become a supplier of supplies. In case of a protracted battle, this is vital. This group is assembled under the best skills of Chiyo, their main hope. Later, all 6 groups completed their expeditions. He uses his eye and decides to check on everyone. He sees that the guy already has 985 points. Although he was sure that he had the lowest level, he is happy because he is making great progress. However, not only he, but himself as well. Due to the fact that he had to wait outside the forest, he practically did not fight, but his levels still increased, which means that everyone gets experience, regardless of location. His blessing skill has developed greatly, in particular, the area of his action. He has never expanded the scope of application before. In his previous group, none of them had ever tried it in separate dungeons, so it wasn't necessary. However, if 150 people fight separately, it will have an incredible effect. Everyone's experience gained in all battles is distributed to all 150 people and doubled. He believes that this is the real essence of a training skill. They are returning back to the port of Fuelt. Aiga is busy with his own affairs and believes that this will be enough. Bando asks him what he is doing. Then he asks another question. Will he return to the ship because everyone is already celebrating there? Aiga says that then Bandu and the others should get on board as soon as possible. He tells them that he is going to sell the dropped items. Bando then asks him to let him join him. Aiga says that it's not worth doing, that he can handle it himself. He says that there is a store that he used to go to, but after certain circumstances he did not appear there. In a certain workshop, a woman is working hard on a sword. Her hands are in thick gloves. One holds the material tightly. The other hand hits with great power and forms the sword itself. Aiga opens her wallet in hope and is disappointed because there is not a penny there. He closes the wallet with a clap. He received 22 million after he left the previous party. After all the expenses, this amount decreased to 55,000. He digs around and wonders if he has anything left in his pocket at all. Because of this, they won't be able to continue pumping them, so he came here. He needs to sell the trophies they got from the last monster raid. There is a store here that he has known for a very long time. It is not on the main street, but in an alley, but it is a very good store. He drags a cart with objects behind him. He comes to a shop where there is a nameplate, the Forge of Lantes. 5 years ago, Cross and Aiga were thrown out into the street because they hit their backs painfully on the bare floor. A huge man with a mustache and a scar on his I told them to get lost and called them boys. Aiga sees that he has the profession of a blacksmith. He shouts at them that there is no place for people like them in Lantes' shop. He also shouted after them never to come back here. Cross, with tears in his eyes, asked Aiga to go to another store. Aiga said that it was impossible, because this was definitely the best place. The next day they came to him again and put a special weapon in front of him. The man is surprised and says that this is the cherished dragon sword, because it is a very rare item. The man asks the employee where the two boys who brought him here are. The woman points her finger at the exit and says that they are lying outside. The man smiles and offers the woman to take them inside. He asks the woman to make them some soup. Two of them, beaten and wounded, lie wearily on the ground. Aiga remembers how he and old man Lantes just met. He sighs and says out loud that so much time has passed. He hears the sounds of the workshop through the door as blade meets blade. He opens the door and says to himself that they have not seen the old man for a long time. He is sure that this will be a surprise for him. But instead of a man, he sees the beautiful back of a woman. He freezes in shock. The girl works by making the metal cool down and then melt it again. She shouts at him that they are closed today. He is happy because he recognizes the girl. He addresses her as Liv and says he didn't know she worked here. The girl, without looking up, asks who he is, because he is behaving too friendly. She looks up and recognizes him at the first glance. She gets up, walks up to him, and they greet each other, touching fists. She says that Aiga is the guy with the stupid face, and then clarifies his name. Aiga laughs nervously and says that he will kill her for it as a joke. Liv says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He has known Liv for a long time, because she is the only daughter of Lantes. She asks how he got here, if he's alone or with Cross. Aiga awkwardly scratches his head and says that he arrived yesterday. Then he adds that he no longer works with Cross. Liv gets upset. Aiga asks if she didn't know, because now Cross is an important figure among all the guilds. The girl says she doesn't know much about the outside world. Aiga says that Cross is in 8th place in the ranking. Liv laughs and says with a grin, if Cross turned out to be so strong, then what about him, who trained Cross? She assumes that he must be even cooler. Then Aiga realizes that he made a good impression on Liv at that time. He explains in a panic that it's not that important. He asks where Lantes is, because he hasn't seen him for a long time. The girl gets uneasy. She says that he hasn't heard about it. Aiga doesn't understand. Liv says her father passed away at the end of last year. He sees a framed photograph that stands high on a shelf. His face is filled with bitterness. Liv says that he suddenly fell ill, but fortunately died quickly. Aiga says it's impossible. Liv leaves, saying she's going to make tea. She tells him everything and says that now she is in charge of the workshop. Aiga says that this is quite unexpected. She always said that working as a blacksmith would not lead to anything good. He sees that her profession is a blacksmith. Liv says she couldn't get married and leave her father here alone, so he missed the chance to leave here. She says that in the end she had nothing left but this blacksmith shop. Aiga sadly tells her that he understands. Aiga suddenly says, warning that everything is without prejudice, that in his opinion she is still very attractive. She thanks him and says that she can no longer compare with the young ones. Then she adds that in this case, it is better not to get married at all. She believes that with such a job, it is better to stay alone. Then she asks him if he didn't come here on business. He says that everything is correct. He shows things and asks if she wants to buy items. She agrees. She asks for a second to evaluate them. At this time, Aiga reflects that this is too big a workshop for Liv alone. He wonders if she really works here all day alone. He sees an announcement about the recruitment of students. He is sure that it is not the old man, because he said that he would transfer his skills only to his daughter, which Liv resisted. Aiga thinks that the old man would never do that. But then who? Suddenly, she throws a wad of money on the table and says that she has finished the assessment. Aiga is happy with the money and thanks her. The advantage of this store is that even if it is a rusty sword or simple scrap metal, Liv will buy it if she can. Such things will be used as raw materials. This is only possible thanks to Lantes' high-level skills. He assumes that his daughter inherited them. He thinks that with such skills, he could ask Liv to do another favor. He asks her to look at something and hands her the ore. She recognizes it and says what an impressive quality it is. She asks where he got it. He only replied that it was a secret. He asks her if she can make a tip from this ore. She replies that she has never done this before. She asks why he does it. He replies that he is using magic ore for the second time. He wants to enclose magic in it and control the direction of his attacks. He says that the magic ore will be a good help in their expeditions, so he asks her to help him. She is surprised that Aiga is still so enthusiastic. She agrees to this. Aiga thanks her and says that she is counting on her. Aiga says it's time for him to go. Liv asks if he's already leaving. He replies that he is already finished here. She asks him not to be so businesslike and have a drink with her. He apologizes and says that he is tired because of the adventure, so he will go to bed and say goodbye. Liv stops him again. He asks what is it. She says that if he comes back just to sleep, then let him spend the night with her. Aiga says that everything is fine, and that his boat is not far away. He can go there. Liv asks him not to talk like that, her eyes filling with tears. Liv asks, grabbing his hands, is it really difficult for him to do this? He gets scared. Liv calms down and asks him to forget about it, asking for forgiveness. He thinks that Liv has been single for a long time, and now she has finally found a friend with whom she can feel at ease. He also thinks about the sign that he should have noticed how lonely Liv is. She went to great lengths to keep him, her friend. He realizes that he was stupid and reflects. He was tired, but it was so easy to leave after he was done with the case. He tells her out loud that he is expected, so he cannot stay. Liv repeats, she already told him to forget about it. He puts his hand on her shoulder and says they should have a drink together. They can talk about old times. Remember the old man? She agrees. That's how they spend the evening. He puts her to bed and leaves again with the cart. He approaches the ship and sees Igarashi. He asks how everything went with her. She replies that she converted Far Eastern money into local currency. Now they have 275,000. He says that he has 55,000 on hand, plus 275,000 and 220,000 from the sale of items, which results in 550,000. He is happy and says that after everything they spent today in the fight, with this amount, they will be able to replenish their stocks of arrows, ammunition, replace broken equipment, and much more other things. He says that then tomorrow they should receive more funds from collecting items. Now they need to provide themselves financially all the time. Igarashi starts to say something, that the fact is that they hear a sound. Aiga asks whose voice it is. He sees all his people having fun with booze and doesn't understand what it is. Igarashi says that he himself said that he would buy for everyone after their first battle. He thinks to himself that he only wanted one mug for each, not a barrel. Then Bando comes up and says that he admires his generosity. He says that this is the best way to maintain the morale of his fighters, as expected from Lord Aiga. Shinji suddenly appears behind him, tensing up. She says his generosity is greatly appreciated. But is he sure about the money? A lot of it was spent on this expedition. Aiga is angry, but does not want to reveal her weaknesses to the people from Aogi. He wants to continue to trust Aogi in matters related to the courts, so it is necessary to get them to trust him. Jiga says that everything is fine, because he is a lord and is not so poor as to skimp on money. Suddenly, with a laugh, Shinji bows to him and asks for forgiveness. She hands him a card and asks him to accept it without hesitation. He asks what it is. She says it's a receipt from a beverage store. Bandu and his men, including Sanji, leave Aiga, asking him to forgive them. Against his background, people are still having fun at full strength. He opens it and sees that it says on the receipt that it is necessary to pay 550,000. His eyes widen and then tears flow from them. He thinks about his poor 550,000, that everything is gone, and that he will not be able to save them. He's already shaking. He starts to panic, not knowing what to do tomorrow. Igarashi calls him, patting him on the back, and tries to calm him down, while Aiga himself cries, calling her by name. So, at the destination of the expedition, he had 0 money left, and that's terrible.